later, I guess.
What?
All right.
Just tell me now.
We're live.
So my sister and I were at my sister brought a friend to a specific area, and we ended up being on the other side where we're supposed to. So we tried taking a locomotive over there, and turns out while we were doing that, they made their way over, and we were on the other side. So, hey, 2 rides in one day. I'm not complaining.
Wait, is this in real life or?
Yeah, it was in real life. I sent Andrew some photos of some of them.
You work on the railroad or something?
No, it was a narrow gauge railway at Cedar Point. So.
Oh. Yes. So. I'm not sure if any of because Jim's offline right now. I'm not sure if any of the other guys are going to be joining.
I was going to say.
Oh, there's Ryan.
Live yet.
Yeah, we're
I
live.
was just talking to Andrew about if no one showed up, we could do the worst narrow gauge locomotives.
Well,
you know.
Then again, for some reason, Josh, you had a bad determination on how to determine a bad locomotive.
Yeah, I said by the fire. If it had a bad firebox. Are we live yet?
Yeah, we're live.
Andrew's smarter than I am at this.
Okay, so all right, so this is just a little series that we're doing where we're just talking, and Andrew is writing a book.
Yes, I'm writing during the meantime of this whole stuff, and meanwhile, while I'm preparing to get some software for us to do Steam Force on Gmod, I'm writing a book, or 2, or 10. But I'm writing books about the stories of excursion stars that either are still around in great shape or have just, gone out of it. These are the stories of excursion stars that changed America for the better, in one way or another. From excursion stars that won't ever operate again to ones you can still see running today.
And what about the ones under restoration, such as 2100?
That's a good one, because one of the books in mind is on Pennsylvania Railroad 1361, which you guys already know is a very ambitious locomotive for restoration.
Yes, the engine, for those who don't know, it's a Pennsylvania Railroad K4 that has had a less than amicable history. Back in the,
Oh, thank you, Tyler Green.
And you mind if I tell them about it?
No, I do not mind.
It was initially constructed in 1918 as part of the third batch of K4s delivered. Now, the first one was delivered in 1914. Then a second batch was delivered in 1917, and the 1361 was delivered in 1918. So around World War I, which is honestly surprising considering the fact that there were.
You're not going to tell them about the confusing road numbering sequence, are you?
Oh boy, good thing you brought that up. Because all of the K4 Pacifics that were built by the Pennsylvania Railroad had some of the most insanely bad numbering sequences that you could think of. And these are only for the Altoona ones, though. The Baldwin-built ones actually had, a better system of numbering things. But, the ones built in Altoona could range from numbers going from 8 to 20 to 600 to 612 to 1,000 to 1,500. You get the picture.
Yeah, numbering was all over the place, much like many railways in the UK actually during that.
Yes, I'm not sure why that happened.
It's because they reuse numbers from old withdrawn locomotives as well.
I'm not talking about the Pens. I'm not talking about them. I'm just wondering why the Pennsylvania Railroad did that, because maybe the Altoona shafts were bad at numbering things. I don't know.
And as a matter of fact, 1361 didn't even continue previously or subsequently, if you know what I mean.
I mean, yes, but the 1360. You mind if I, continue with the?
Please go ahead.
The engine was initially put on the creme de la creme of passenger trains.
The Broadway Limited.
The Broadway Limited is one. The Federal, I think, was another. But the Broadway Limited is the main. Sometimes they would. In fact, 425 of them were built over a period of 14 years. So the engine, but as diesels began to take hold in the 1950s, they were bumped off of the premier passenger trains of the Pennsy and demoted to commuter services, like on the New York and Long Branch division, which runs between Bayhead and Jersey City in New Jersey, where I live near. So that's a bit special to me. So. And it would continue to do this right up until around 1957, when the Pennsylvania Railroad officially ditched steam. Out of all of the K4s that were built, 425, only 2 are left.
Yeah, and the other
750 was given to the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania, which is right next to the Stroudsburg Railroad. And the other one, 1361, was placed right on possibly the most famous Pennsylvania Railroad landmark, the Horseshoe Curve.
And before you continue the story of 1361, I'd just like to mention the title of the book that 1361's story will be told. 1361, From Fame to Shame. Anyway, continue.
I like the name of that title.
But the 13, and it would sit there for I want to say 28 years, so nearly 3 years on the curve. In that time, it would see many other steam excursion locomotives, such as
2101? 2102.
2102, Grand Trunk Western 4070.
And Mississippian 76 when it was moved to from one tourist road to another, might I add.
759 as well, as it went over the Horseshoe Curve in 1970, and there's photographs of that. I just don't have them on hand right now. But
who has joined?
Here, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Jim Bolaya. Yeah.
I did send you a message that I was delayed by an hour.
I know.
Oh, and Raz is joining us now.
Raz is here.
Oh wait, before
I'm just telling the story about 1361 because that's the first book Andrew is
actually that's not the first. That's actually not the first book. The first book is going to be about 1278, but the second book will be about
right.
But wait, let me But hold on. Before we continue anything, there's 2 things I need to take care of. One, let's take a look at the stream's comments. Let's see. Tyler Green says, "Nice shirt." Oh, thank you.
What you wearing? I didn't see it.
It's my 2926 at the, it's my Mexico Steam Locomotive Railroad Historical Society shirt. Let's see what's next. What engine was that in the box? Is it yes, the box. Okay, this. So this was my very first DCC steam locomotive right here. And, well, over time, it wore out intensely. And the tender... almost. Okay. Whew. The tender gave out. And over time, I've been trying to restore it to its former glory so it can run again. But, unfortunately, the more that I take it apart, the worse the damage I've seen is. Kind of like how 3985 was. The
locomotive I was talking about earlier is about to be like.
Yeah, 1361.
So, as I was saying,
But Owen, I'm still not done reading the Hold on, Owen, hold on. We'll all get a chance to speak. Remember, this is like an hour or two long stream, but let's see here. Elijah Trofrit says, "Hey Andrew, I saw 611 at Strasbourg. Oh, good for you. I got a 611 shirt just like Andrew for the. Oh, that's nice. Also, it's my dad's birthday. Well, happy birthday to your dad. Hello, brother. My little brother. Anyway, Angry Rich Books. Yes. Have you seen a Mikado numbered 551 at the Museum of Transportation? Oh.
About that one. It was like C and IE 551. It was a Lima built Mikado bootleg.
Yeah, I actually haven't
Worthington S7 on it.
I haven't gone to the Museum of Transportation yet, but yeah, this is the last Lima built Mikados in existence. But anyway, let's see here. When one of the people in the voice chat with you is watching the stream, Angry Red Coffee. Okay, but anyway, now before Owen continues, I'd actually like to read a segment of part of what I wrote for the 1361 story. And well, actually, before I do that, Owen, you may continue the story of 1361, and stop when you get to the part about Steamtown.
Andrew, read the comments. Andrew, read the comments.
Read the comments. It's Raz. It's me. I'm really Raz.
Okay, but as I'm trying to say before,
got him.
In 1985, in 1985, the engine. Well, actually, I'd have to go a little bit further back than that. In 1980, a new organization known as the Railroaders Memorial Museum was put into. The Railroaders Memorial Museum was founded in.
Who the hell deafened me?
Oh, sorry.
Who the hell deafened me?
Oh my god.
Wait, who?
I had the stream muted on my end so I can actually hear you, boys.
Okay, but anyway, Owen, continue.
Can I please? I've suffered enough interruptions today.
Let them finish.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah. Anyways, in 1980, the Railroaders Memorial Museum was established, and their goal was to preserve as much of the railroading history of the city of Altoona as possible. So, in 1985, or actually, I think it was a little before that, they were actually thinking of restoring at least one Pennsylvania Railroad steam engine. So they went around the state looking for the perfect locomotive to rebuild. I think they were actually even considering one of the either number 460 or 6755. But in the end, they went to the Horseshoe Curve. They saw 1361 right there, and pretty much in a somewhat less than amicable state cosmetically at the time. They decided that's the perfect locomotive for us to rebuild. So in 1985, they had the locomotive moved from the curve by over Conrail's tracks to the Altoona yard. And actually, Conrail, I think, was nice enough for them to actually use one of their car shops for the restoration. Now, initially, it was only supposed to be cosmetic. That's a very important part. But...
Excuse me one moment, I'm going to be AFK for a bit.
All right, but eventually, 1 year into it, they decided, you know what? Screw it. Let's restore this thing to working order. And they got on board a certain Doyle McCormick, the man who rebuilt the Southern Pacific 4449 Daylight, which had a cracked crown sheet, mind you. So they consulted him to help rebuild the locomotive. And he actually took charge of the restoration. However, and 1 year after that, in April of 1987, the locomotive moved under her own power for the first time in 30 years. And actually, after running several test runs, it ran a few excursions, some on the Conrail main line, while others were on several short lines throughout Pennsylvania. But in August of 1988, while it was on a ferry, moved back to Altoona after, I think it was the York 150 celebrations that it attended. One of its bearings ended up overheating and just essentially destroying the axle of the locomotive. Yeah, the axle. And this, now normally, a fault like this could be somewhat easily corrected. Well, if you have the proper tools to do it. And they actually did initially order a replacement axle but in 1989, as it was being transported over there by truck, the replacement axle fell off the truck. So they were left in a pretty tight spot. And the engine remained and they started disassembling the engine, and they found a whole host of things that they looked over. Remember, the decision to restore it to working order was only undertaken in 1986, and it came out in 1987. Early 1987, by that matter. So it could have been at least 1 or less than a year it took for them to actually get that thing running. So you can imagine how many things they really looked over. And no offense to Doyle McCormick, but even the best screw up, cock up sometimes, as the British would say. So, and I know I'm getting to the end of my thing here, but in the mid-1990s, specifically around 1996, a new effort to rebuild the engine was undertaken. And keep in mind, it was going to take place at Steamtown National Historic Site, but it was only going to take place there. A hired group of contractors was supposed to do the work. And that's where I'll leave off.
And now, here comes the quote that I have actually written for part of the book. After my barreling failure, I was sent to a place the workmen called Steamtown. At the time, it seemed like I was going to be better than the day I was built. But things turned for the worse as soon as I met most of the workers. Everything hurt. I couldn't breathe, think, move. All I could do was watch as they tore out parts from my firebox, like some sort of surgery. The pain was so much I wanted to kill myself. Then after a couple of years of constant agony and pain, I heard them talking from behind the shed about my situation. It seemed though I wouldn't get the restoration that 26 was telling me about. That's what I wrote for 1361 story so far.
Also, when Owen was talking about 1 year restoration, it was literally a 1 year restoration. It was like a Wish.com restoration. I mean, nothing like the 30-day miracle pulled off on 2101. But 2101, they actually made that thing a good engine.
Well, here's a key difference, though, by the way. 2101 was still in good condition for not operating at the Iron Horse Rambles.
Yeah, exactly. And 1361 was sitting outside for 30 years.
Not to mention being beat to death by the Penzie for nearly 40 years.
2101 also got replacement parts from 2100. They used a different locomotive of the same class as a parts donor to help move the refurbishment along.
And not to mention,
I was going to say that. Thank you. But also keep in mind that for 1361's restoration, they literally painted over rust that was on the locomotive when it sat in the park. I'm not even kidding. They literally painted over the rust.
You want to know something else? I think this was during its time at Steamtown when they were testing the thickness of the firebox. Robert Franzen, who now works. I heard about this story from one of the guys who works on the Iowa Interstate QJs. Robert Franzen, who works on the QJs now, he worked on 1361, and while he was testing the thickness of the firebox, he punched a hole right through the backhead with a light hammer tap. Like, keep in mind, that's how weak the engines. I would also like to point out as much of a Pennsylvania Railroad fan I am, there was a bit of there was a serious fault at least in after the post-war modifications. I assume it was to make it cheaper, but they completely changed the stable. Yes, they removed the stable. They changed the stable pattern in the crown sheet, which made it a lot weaker.
Wait, let me get this straight. 1361's restoration was supposed to be cosmetic at first.
It was.
Yeah.
That's the same exact story as a certain consolidation.
That was DM. He's talking about Duluth and Northeastern 28, or DM&I Arthur 332.
You mean the shitbox on wheels? Okay.
You mean the engine? You mean the engine that the LSRM illegally fired up in 2012?
Also, apparently there's a goddamn tank engine refurbished on a farm that makes 332 look like it's in decent shape.
Are you talking about that one narrow gauge engine?
About that video where they hooked up the hose to the freaking where they hooked up the hose.
Why is it? I don't understand. I'm not the biggest fan of 2-foot narrow gauge, but why are they getting all the abuse all of a sudden? First, it's the one on the UC and SV route where they literally fired it with compressed air and filled the boiler with fucking concrete, and then
put a fire.
Now this, where they're literally blowing steam into the fucking thing and running it off the rails as if it's some kind of fucking toy. I swear. I do heard that many narrow gauge lines don't fall under the same rules as, FRA stuff. But I swear to God, I feel like they're going to have to at some point if something bad happens. Like,
narrow gauge matters, anyway.
Yes, it does.
Also, if you look at Burning Subjects chat on the Discord, I posted this very famous picture of 1361 that many of you know. Like, if you see around the valve stem and the cylinders, and also underneath the running board, and also behind that little wheel thing on the pistons, you can see that there's literal rust there.
I can see that.
And for you who was curious, I'm going to put the JPEG in the chat for you people watching to check it out.
Honestly, I'm surprised I'm surprised even 2 K4s were saved.
Like I said, the K4s themselves were good locomotives, all right? They were arguably some of the best Pacifics of the 20th century and were somewhat ahead of their time in terms of their development. Yes.
Very debatable. There's only one Pacific that I can think that dunks on them, and that's the Main Central rebuilt C class.
But the K4s the first K4 was constructed right before World War I began.
It was in 1913.
Yes, So yeah, it kind of predates the main Central Pacific in a way, because I think that was developed around 1926. You got to remember, back in the day, the only other Pacific that I think was even comparable to them at the time was the Alco's number 50,000 Pacific that they sold to the Erie, which was one of the first examples of a heavy Pacific, mind you. So yeah, these Pacifics were a bit ahead of their time.
That these things were so good. Yeah, not to mention these things were actually so good and so fit for the Penske's needs that they literally could not find an alternative replacement. I mean, yeah, they built only 2 Penske K5s, but the K4 still outshined them.
Yeah, because the K5 was a stupid design. Like, why do you build a giant fucking boiler and firebox and increase the size of the firebox? Well, at that point, you should just make it a Hudson. That was a stupid thing to build on there. Granted, the B&O did successfully build the P7s, which are insanely powerful in their own right, but they had less issues than the K5.
And also, to be honest, going on about the K5s, the increased firebox has been done before. For example, like in Lima Locomotive Works, right before the prototype A1 Berkshire was built, one of the chief designers enlarged the firebox of an H10 Mikado, of a New York Central H10B Mikado. I swear, if I keep saying Mikado, I'm going to attract Southern, but I digress.
Did you say Mikado?
Oh, boy. Oh, Lord. However, and then there was, like, when it started developing problems because the firebox was getting really, really ludicrously big, and they were like, I think we're going to need a bigger trailing truck for this thing. Hence why A1 was born. A big firebox on a big trailing truck, and that sprouted the superpower concept.
Yes, a good concept. Am I not wrong?
A great concept.
A very good concept.
It is.
Wait a second.
But as I'm going back to the K4s themselves, and 1361 does have the potential to be an excellent locomotive in preservation. It's just it was dealt kind of a bad hand by both the railroad by rebuilding it with an insufficient crown sheet, and the people restoring her for literally doing an absolute dog shit job of doing so. Like, I actually think that Doyle McCormick was the only qualified person on the team, from what I can.
He is making me go.
Doesn't he look disappointed at that cab photo I sent to Bring Subjects channel?
Yeah, he does. I'm like, now, I'm not, and of course, this is not to throw any shit at Joel McCormick. He has done some of the most impossible feats on a steam engine. For example, 4449's crown sheet was cracked. And
do I have to mention Sumter Valley 19? Because Sumter Valley 19 was literally just a shell. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to describe what Sumter Valley 19 was when she came to Doyle McCormick. Boiler, wheels.
Oh, no. That's not the only thing, though. I think also 2816 is also an excellent case because that engine was in pretty bad condition when it arrived at the.
Doyle McCormick has done the impossible.
Yes, it's just this particular restoration was not very good. Oh yeah, not to mention.
In fact,
but the good news.
If I'm not mistaken, 2816 was the only steam town locomotive Doyle McCormick has ever touched. I think.
I mean, I guess so. You want to know you guys want to know an interesting factoid about 2816 that may not everyone know? The only reason it was in Nelson Blount's collection and therefore exists was Blount was actually originally searching for a New York Central Hudson, but by 1960 there was literally none left.
Oh,
So
that's such a shame.
Yeah, but in the end, we did end up getting the only surviving unstreamlined CP Hudson.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And I think his initial plans, he actually wanted to run it out of Bellows Falls, but the bridges on the Green Mountain Railroad, from what I can recall, were too, they couldn't accommodate the Hudson type. So, even though they could accommodate a fucking Berkshire, because 759, but I think by that point, the 759 operated on there. The engine was in too rough shape to actually, and then Canadian Pacific, with the help of Doyle McCormick, of course, completely rebuilt the engine to the point where, dare I say, even though it has not been used for any serious work in quite nearly a decade, it is the best maintained, it's one of the, if not the best maintained steam locomotive in North America. And that's saying a lot.
And you're goddamn right.
Because of Steve Stanford. Steve Stanford.
I'm about to start.
It's rivaling Steve Stanford.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the 261 is probably the best maintained coal burner in the States because, I mean, even though that thing is still a coal burner, the thing looks shiny clean. And actually, though, 261 won't be a coal burner for much longer because, from what I know, the Friends of 261 are already
now that. Keep speaking.
The Friends of 261 are actually considering an oil conversion, which is actually accurate for the Milwaukee Road S3 series, is because they actually operated in the Pacific Northwest, so they were fired by oil over there.
Well, at least it'll be historically accurate.
I mean, honestly, who gives a shit about historical accuracy when you get to run your steam engine? It's sort of like...
Because in fact, Ross Willen wanted to burn 614 to burn oil one time.
Yeah. Or actually, I think natural gas. That's
a disgrace, because that's a bigger disgrace. That's about as big a disgrace as Thomas Paine in 2100. Because...
you had to bring that up.
Railroad.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Yes,
the 614 is actually better suited to it because it doesn't have the Wooten firebox. It's so I would not mind an oil burning 614 if Ross Rowland was actually not as much of a clown as from what I'm hearing.
He's gone a little bit cuckoo over the years, to say the least.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like, I actually thought of a concept he may have thought of doing if, his plans some of his plans were actually more feasible, called the Golden Spike Sesquicentennial Limited, which would have 614, but in the same blue and gold paint scheme as the Centennial Limited was in 1969, and burning oil so that she could actually travel the entire way. Of course, in New York City, you're going to still have to have electric trains because Manhattan is the least friendly place to rail fans ever. So you would, of course, still have to have...
So now it will be... Who's going to be the cleanest coal burner? Who's going to be the best maintained coal burner after 261 goes out?
I guess so. 611 is also pretty goddamn well maintained from what I can see, because she's had a few.
You can just go to a fine job with cleaning 2716.
Oh yeah, they're like 2716. From what Jason Subchinski has said, the engine, let's just say, the only overhaul it's going to need is a regular class overhaul that would have been performed on a regular basis throughout the Steam era. Think about that.
I'm going to start a nuclear war by asking this, but why is the Daylight so popular?
That's a well. It's really one of those. Hold on.
I can because it was one of the locomotives that pulled the American Freedom Train. It also headed up possibly the best passenger train in the United States because the Southern Pacific Daylights were the best statistically overall. Due to their affordability overall.
And might I add that it's one of so few steam locomotives in operation.
It's only one of two in the United States that operates.
Yeah, and the other is completely underrated.
I could change that. Hey, boys, let's go Rob 2839. Let's go Rob 2839.
Let's go take the narrow gauge railways.
There's no... You can't run a Royal Hudson on a narrow gauge railway.
I'm... Actually...
That's gross.
You can't... I mean, the only people that can do such a thing are the South Africans because they built enormous narrow gauge steam engines.
I mean, take a look at their 484s that run on narrow gauge.
The narrow gauge built by the German and the British, like the Glasgow 15Fs and the Henschel 16Fs.
What about the... Oh, yeah, don't forget the Class 25s, either. The Class 25s were they were like miniature Niagaras in a way, if you think about it.
Well...
I mean, look at them. They're...
Hold on.
It's always nations like that think their funnels can be bigger than ours.
Dax.
Don't
I hate
take
it when
that.
people use the name.
Don't take
I hate it when people use the word funnel.
Yeah,
Dak.
yeah, for those here who don't know Josh, he's a bit of a nubby when it comes to steam locomotive knowledge.
But I'm great when it comes to sex jokes and crashing.
What the fuck did I just get in DMs?
Wait, what? Wait, what is it?
What the fuck? I like how we were on the topic of Mikado's underfoot and British subjects. Oh, Lord.
Oh, but hold on. I'm trying to find something.
Oh, my goodness. As I'm trying to say, yes, the 611 Stoker, from what I understand, it wasn't really the fact that they were poorly maintaining it, but more the fact that there was a defect in the original casting, and it was a defect in the original casting for it that they were actually able to weld back together pretty goddamn expediently. So that's a whole. And actually, they were able to fix almost any problem with that engine pretty expediently. Like, yes, its initial 21st century restoration was a little rushed. Actually, a little is a bit of an understatement. But then again, Norfolk Southern supplied them with a shitload of money and and people who actually worked on the locomotive back in the 80s and 90s.
What good locomotive came from California? Because I can't find it.
Southern Pacific 2472.
Oh,
And you have the P10s.
Santa Fe
Southern
29.
Pacific
Oh wait, no. Well, actually, yes, they did operate in California. The Santa Fe 20.
yes, and don't forget to mention 3751, which I'm pretty sure Josh is actually going to fall in love with.
Yeah, 3751 for anyone who doesn't know is actually the oldest preserved northern.
Yeah, and it's also the Santa Fe's first northern.
Yeah, it was originally built in 1927 as a heavy mountain. Like, keep that in mind. It was eventually rebuilt in the 30s.
Heavy Mountain is very deceiving. Heavy Mountain is literally what the ACSF called their early 484s, because I'm not even kidding. They looked almost identical to the 482s.
Yeah, until the 1930s when they actually rebuilt them with bigger boilers.
Now, if you don't mind, welcome to Chicken Wing ASMR.
Where are you getting your chicken wings from, Seth?
Chick-fil-A.
I actually don't know. But anyway, let's take a moment to read the chat again. Let's see. I would donate, but I can't. Why would we accept donations? We're just anyway.
We're just a bunch of people talking about locomotives. Why would we accept donations?
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Baltimore and Ohio T3 482s?
Yes.
That is a great question for Owen, because he is a B&O Swift. He is a B&O foamer, basically, at this point.
Yeah, it is. Yes, the T3s were the final developments of the B&O mountain types. They were constructed in 1942 at the B&O's own Mount Clair shops out of parts from older locomotives such as Pacifics, and so forth. Some were equipped with standard 25-ton tenders with a 20,000-gallon water capacity, but some were equipped with long-ass Vandy tenders, specifically the T3T series. I have a whole book on I actually have a PDF of all the B&O diagrams known to have ever existed, so...
Andrew, I'm going to send you a message and I want you to read it out. Andrew, I'm going to send you a message and I want you to read it out loud.
Hold on, because I'm actually trying to look for something on my phone.
Okay.
Because I think I might have lost what I wrote about 1187, and I think that I still have like the thing that I put on Discord about what I wrote. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about myself, about 1187.
All right.
1187 is going to be one of my favorite books to write, though. Personally, anyway.
All right, Andrew, I just sent it.
Let's see what else. Also, have you seen the 482 mountains from the Louisville and Nashville and the Rutland? Woo!
I've seen.
I was talking about the L1.
Owen has a solution
Talking about the
LNN
L1s.
42s.
Just take one of the Frisco mountains and raise the running boards. Put the air tanks underneath said running boards. Give it a bigger headlight, and voila!
Voila!
You have an LNN mountain type to call your own.
Just imagine if
You commit a K&L. You commit a K&L trains.
But unlike K&L, I'd also raise the running boards to put the air tanks underneath, which is my 15. I don't want to take 1501 though, which already has that feature, because 1501 holds somewhat sentimental value to being the oldest of the T-54s in preservation.
Yeah, and it's also the best looking right now.
Yeah. Then again, it wouldn't. Then again, it wouldn't cause as big of a riot if I chose 1522. Yes.
No, you would just make as soon as if you say let's convert 1522 into an LNN mount, I'm pretty sure everybody would leave the stream.
Hey, Frisco 15 mount. Hey, 1522 foamers. Fuck you.
I got an even more fluid scheme.
Oh, hey, I made two people leaving. I made 2 people leave by saying that.
We made 2 people leave.
If I had a time machine, I would go back in time and secretly swap 1522 for Illinois Central 2613.
I mean, yeah, that would actually be. I mean, 2613 is an overall superior engine in a ways because it has a bigger boiler, more tractive effort.
Superior, they say, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. Anyway.
Andrew's on crack.
And also, Andrew,
Yeah?
I found what you were looking for when it comes to 1187, I think.
Where is it? Come on, phone, operate with me. Sorry,
While Andrew's doing that, did you know he almost passed out when he saw 2100 for the first time?
Shut up!
I was there, Andrew. I saw you.
I mean...
But I understand. You were excited.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't pass out. He didn't just pass out. He passed out with a raging boner.
Sounds like Andrew.
It's Andrew. Andrew. You never really know what he's got.
While you guys are arguing about that, allow me to go on a rant about the most underappreciated scale in bottle railroading. X. Seriously, it's right in the middle between HO, which while you can fit so many trains on there, there is a limit to how many details you can fit on a locomotive before it becomes extremely delicate, and O gauge, which most people can't fit in their homes. S is the perfect middle ground, people. Come on, manufacturers, make more S-scale shit.
What size is S scale? Can you give me like a?
It's 1/64.
Okay.
Oh.
But anyway,
that
though.
actually work for people with model farms.
But anyway, though, guys, about what I wrote about 1187, which, if you're wondering, the title for the book about 1187 is 1187, The Little Engine That Could've. See what I did there?
Yeah, I saw.
But anyway, this is one of the things that I wrote. Thanks, Ryan, for recovering it.
Yeah.
I was doing the turnaround at the station as normal. The other one gave me a little hoot as he turned to refuel. But as soon as I began to move, one of the employees came up to me and said, "I got good news and bad news." I said, "Well, bring it to me straight." "Good news is, you're going to pull an excursion for a convention." "And what's the bad news?" He looked down on his knees in grief before saying, "Bad news is," holding his hat in his hands, "that will be your last run." I looked at him, then at the passengers. All I could think about is if they'd miss me.
Alright. Just one more accuracy. I don't necessarily think the Strasbourg cruise would be that sentimental to 1187 because from what I heard, they did not like running the thing. I mean, I will say though, it is a nice change of pace from some of the overbearing amount of saddle tank Oporos that are running throughout the States.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons I love 1187. It's a big change.
Yes, in terms of small, I get some people like those saddle tanks, but come on, how many? And I get they're easy to transport by truck, and you could run it on any railroad you can think of. But come on.
I mean, 1187's about the same size. and it's twice as unique because it's it's a camelback. What are the chances of you finding a camelback in your nearest museum? 1 out of 2,000.
I mean, down here in Ohio, they have.
I hate to break it to you guys, but I think 1251 and 060 style tank is more interesting than 1187.
Oh, screw you! That thing has the same exact amount of tractive ever as 1187.
Down here in Ohio, we can actually
Well,
find one of
first of
those
all,
locomotives at the HST railroad.
1251 is the last steam locomotive to ever regularly operate for a Class 1 railroad. That's standard gauge anyway. And I know a lot of people probably won't believe me just because of T1 Northerns exist, but 1251 is the last homegrown Reading locomotive left.
What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'll talk to you later, Andrew.
You sure? All right then, Josh. See you later.
As I am saying though, but as I am saying though,
1251's a one-off.
yes, but I also would like to say, but I also really would like to say, Raz, you heard my statement about the overabundance of 040 saddle tanks, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, so I get why people like them, but like, I get, but like, seriously, like, how interesting is Flag Coal 75 or Lehigh Coal 125 or whatever, or Visco 6? Like, they're the exact same fucking thing. And yes, I'm about to get fucking shat on for that.
Oh, but I mean, you're not wrong though. You are not wrong.
That's that.
Well, Christopher Kovacs is rapidly approaching on your location.
I'm very funny. I mean, I don't, like I said, I understand why some people like them, but I don't get why some people just, foam at the mouth.
One theory, I think, why they're overwhelmed, because over half of them probably participated in Rail Train Festival 2009.
No, Train Fest 2014 as well. Don't forget that.
Too.
But yeah.
And the fact that they can literally appear on almost any railroad that needs steam. Like, remember, one of them actually, even on railroads that did not have any steam trains at all, like Colebrookdale at one point, or the Adirondack
Railroad of New York,
or the Adirondack Scenic. That's also another place. But yeah, I mean, I just think there's like, I wouldn't mind if like one of us. I get why tank engines are popular, but like, why can't you just change up the pace? Restore a fucking BDT side tanker, although, like the one that ages steam for once.
Wait, guys.
Yeah?
Well,
And when
I would just like to mention the other books that I'd like to talk about, which, and after I do, you guys get to come up with concepts for book ideas. Okay.
Okay, you can go ahead.
So you guys already know that the first book is about 1278 and its horrible misfortune.
Yes.
Yes. And we already know, 1361 and 1187. But one of the interesting books, which I'm going to have a lot of fun, is the book about 759 and 765. Together. The story of two brethrens. And, well, the book itself is called The Superpower Sisters. But,
you also got, and also not to mention, when you do write it, you also got to include 757 because 765 is going to be meeting up 757 here in the fall.
Yes, this is going to be this one is going to be one of my favorite books to write, especially because I get to write about sibling rivalry.
750. Oh, you can always put the. Well, I am going to give you this interesting tidbit that I learned about the class. The 27, the 763 and the 765 were actually considered to be the best running of all the Berkshires on the nickel plate.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Sibling rivalry. That's really the theme of this book, though, especially with
So
the fame of 759 and 765.
yes, the 765. At one point, I guess confronts 759 and says like, Cruz called me the best running of the Berkshires. I'm not sure this, but also another thing you should also include is that 759 was the very last steam locomotive to receive an overhaul by the Nickel Plate's Conneaut shops.
That's exactly. There's a lot of, there's a lot of rivalry that can go on between 759 and 765, especially since they're both, legendary excursion stars in their own rights. And I like to think that when 765 meets 759 at Steamtown, they make amends for, this pity rivalry. And if they ever see each other again, they'll talk even more.
Yes,
You know what, Andrew?
Honestly, it actually...
Oh, God. Now I have a horrible thought.
What?
Raz, can you promise me you'll sit there quietly?
So you know how many
Canals?
Yes, I'll sit there quietly like I have for the past 5 minutes. Yeah, but do you know how there's so many C&O canals in preservation?
Yeah?
Yeah.
If it was could you if they were all people, could you just imagine if all of them got together? And they would all have, and since there's so many of them in preservation, they instantly start going at each other's necks.
No. I think it would. I think most people would. I think most of them would be jealous at 2716 because they'd be like, "Where's our restoration opportunities? Where's our time to shine?" That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you guys see the idea behind these books. There's a lot of potential. It's really the idea of if these locomotives could tell the stories, what would they sound like, or what would they say? That's what these books are about.
I think 614 would be a very interesting one because go ahead, Ryan.
Be quiet for a minute, Raz. As I was about to say before I was so rudely interrupted, Andrew, are you ever going to make a book for at least one Lake Superior Ishpeming Steam Star?
Maybe.
There's already a book about 18, but it was written by
Nick Porter.
But look, here's the thing. The book I have in mind for a Lake Superior Ishpeming locomotive is actually kind of the same ordeal as 759 and 765. But you can probably guess which
33.
two locomotives are the rivals this time.
34 and 33.
Yep. But the thing is, for this ending, for 33 and 34, it's really much more sad.
Because 34 is, 33, I guess... I think the ending of the book could be the 33 could visit WMSR at one point on a special
or
trip.
33 hopes to visit her. 33 hopes to visit her sister someday, but until then, she sits and waits.
Yes, well, 734 is in a very depressed. Well, actually, that could actually be a lot more tragic because you could also see how 734 was essentially abused for most of her life.
Yeah.
And then at one point, she's actually talking with 1309 when it first arrives. And
please get me out of here! Don't leave me here! I'm in heavenly hell!
No, it's more like, oh, you're my replacement. Well, and then when it's on a sighting and 1309 operates for the first time, and 734 has heard about all the rabid fans who had made bizarre accusations about the engine, and she feels like she's at fault for most of it. In a way,
That is. These are the ideas I'd need. Yes.
like she thinks that it's all my fault that that engine is getting unfairly harassed.
And you know what, Raz? You haven't been talking for a while, so you may speak now, I guess.
Raz.
Okay, now
yeah.
here's something interesting. Picture it.
What?
A book on Buffalo Creek and Golly number 4.
Oh!
But you mean the engine that operated at what's its name again? At the North Carolina Transportation Museum for a few years before being transferred over to the I guess the Durban and Greenbrier.
Be like a similar story to 734, considering that she was literally beaten to the ground as well. And not to mention that they.
And you know what, Andrew? Hear me out.
Yeah.
A book on my favorite CBQ locomotive ever.
All 4960.
Yeah, hear
And
me out.
the funny no.
Good.
Look, Ryan, I actually have that idea written down. Would you like to hear it?
Okay, sure.
So this is the book idea. Well, the book title. 4960, Missing the Glory Days. And this is a story about how 4960 really misses the days he operated with his faithful partner 5632.
Who ended up getting
who ended up getting off.
There's going to be an oven in this story. There's going to be an oven in this story, and I can tell.
This is a story of hardships and trying to go through the harsh reality of getting old and that you will meet an end someday. But until then, you can run as much as you can until that day when you can finally rest.
Yeah, I think you should also, talk about her complete rebuild by the Grand Canyon Railway because.
Oh, I plan to.
In fact, how about this? She was gonna get cut up, but thanks to some assholes in New Haven, Indiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, make her unconscious, or 4960 unconscious, until she wakes up in the middle of an overhaul in Williams, saying, "Where am I? What's going on?" Huh?
You're gonna be better again. I see. You see, these are the ideas I need.
Wait, Okay. Now here's this one's not for an excursion star, but it's also for a very famous locomotive. And when I mean not an excursion star, I mean like not an excursion star at all. You should do a book about the Lima Demonstrator locomotive A1.
If there's going to be a book about
how she started life as an H10, but she had her firebox gradually increased larger and larger and larger and larger until she became what we know today as A1. And also how the interesting story when she was basic. Okay, now this brings me an idea. A thing about the 4 Aces. Do a book about the 4 Aces.
No, actually, you know what would be a great book? The Baldwin 60,000.
Oh!
The 60,000 is going around railroads trying to prove itself. And you can always say, like, I was a bit hostile towards the other engines. And another thing about 60,000 is her third cylinder actually had a tendency to break the track sometimes. And this is 1920s era track, so...
Oh, here's one book idea that I really wanted Jim to be here to hear.
He's right here right now.
Yeah, I know. It's the book about 3985. The Wartime Escape.
So it's essentially it's getting used over time, getting restored quickly and used over time until. Oh yeah. Also, if you're gonna do a book on that, make sure to include her appearance in Last of the Giants. Like before the Union Pacific decided to let me go, they wanted to do a film where I had to walk into the where I had to steam into the frame right before the screen fades to a big boy locomotive.
I like that.
You know,
Because
now,
she
also-
does make an appearance in Last of the Giants.
Oh, and you know what? Screw it. Andrew,
Yeah?
do you have any plans for at least one Texas State Railroad locomotive?
For any Texas State Railroad locomotive?
Yes, even if it's just 13, 16.
If you look on the stream, you might have seen what I did.
Oh, well, I don't.
I winked. I winked.
well, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
But I have
oh,
plans.
that means he probably has plans.
I have plans for all types of steam
Starts up to
locomotives.
something.
I mean, my first one is about probably one of the worst tragedies in railroad preservation. 1278. And then things just get more interesting. In fact, one of my favorites that you guys know that I just have to write about is none other than the Reading T1s.
Well, you could also do a sibling rivalry there story.
Yes, but the funny thing is, this one is mostly about sibling caring. This is a very emotional story, especially the part where 2100 decides to give her parts to 211 to let her operate instead of 2100.
Now that you said sibling rivalry, you could, since all 6 of the Canadian Pacific G5s have ran, there should be a rivalry bit in the 1278 story. There really should.
That's not a bad idea. Especially, I like the idea of sibling camaraderie. Like, I don't know. Let's say
especially
1270.
since 3 of them operated on Steamtown.
Like, let's say 1278 and 1293 are like chuckling. It's like, hey, I'm better than you. Huh. Okay, calm down there, buddy.
That scene where
That'd still be a good flaw considering 1270 and 1293 are still in the same location now.
yeah, 1278 is also
I'm not even kidding. They're literally one stall apart from each other. The only thing that's in between them is 1551.
Yeah.
I'm not even making that up. 1551.
You could. At the end of the story, you can actually add a comedic bit where the 1551 is in between them while they're reminiscing about the old times.
Yes,
And
this
1551 is like, will you two please shut up? I'm trying to sleep.
that's one of the things. That's a good idea right there. That's a great.
Oh, and going back to a 4960 story briefly.
Yeah.
Going back to the 4960 story briefly, I say whenever a 3751 segment or two show up, 4960 should say, you're not the same as 5632 or something like that. What are you doing here?
Mm-hmm. And the 3751 explained. And the 3751 actually explained, saying, "This is where I haven't seen you before here. This is where I used to run. I used to run this because keep in mind, Grand Canyon Railway is former Santa Fe territory."
Yeah. Oh, 3751 would be a really interesting story to write for, especially concerning the rebuild and.
Also, not to mention that 2926 is coming. Not to mention 2926 is coming.
Yes, and not to mention, imagine like 3751 misses her sister 3759.
Oh, that would be okay.
Almost operating for Grand Canyon Railway, by the way.
You know what? You know what you guys? You know what you should do? You should do a story on the Intrepid Trio, or as That's what I like to call it. The Intrepid Trio, 630, 722, and 4501.
Yeah, well, you could always say, well, the 722 would just be like, I've been disassembled for so many years and just sitting on a siding somewhere. Well,
She's only been disassembled since 2001.
yeah. Well,
And you know what? I got an idea. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. When 4960 steams up in your little story, Andrew, make either 29 or 18 4960's brief mentor on how things work on the railroad.
That is a great idea. And actually, speaking of which, since I'm going to be talking about the Strasburg Railroad in 1187 story, should I make another story concerning the Great Three that operate on the Strasburg?
I mean, 31 would be a fairly tragic story because that engine has been pretty much disassembled since the mid-2000s, since the late 2000s.
I mean, I want to find a way to include a happy ending because
Yes.
some sort.
Yes, you can always say how the 90s sometimes gets full of hot air because it's the pride of the line somewhat. 475 could always be the one that, screws up on occasion because she has the firebox that sticks out. And 89 is the old hand who, well, actually 475 is older, but 89 is supposed to be the senior, is one of the senior members who,
Fair enough.
the voice of reason.
Yeah. I mean, especially since, 89, how long has 89 been at Strasburg?
It's been there since 1972.
How long has, how long have you
been there longer, since 67, but only by like a small margin. But 89 is always, but 89 operated for a longer time. But 89 operated for a much longer time on Steamtown's owns brands. So it knows a lot of the ropes about. And you could always, if you're writing a book about 89, you could always say, I was allowed to go faster on the Steamtown route. This is why do I have to go so slow? Why do I have to move at a snail's pace along this route? Now.
Oh, and if you make a story about 89, make him as if he's dreaming about the guy he misses the most. One of.
Wow.
His old pal.
Nelson Blount.
Yes. Yes, there was.
Because remember, 89 was his favorite locomotive.
Oh, this may be a bit too emotional to put in the book, but I was thinking of a scene where Blount says goodbye to 89 because his plane was traveling from the Steamtown and he was flying home from there, and he got into his, but all of a sudden I saw the plane coming down, and I heard a loud boom. I was horrified because I didn't see any explosion, but I was horrified because I knew exactly what happened. A few hours later, I was hearing a conversation the police were having with the president about how Blount had died in the crash. I was mortified. We all at Steamtown were mortified.
That is
the most.
You see that is the kind of emotion I want to put into these books. I mean,
but I was the most mortified of all of this because I was his favorite engine. I was his. The 15 and
you should do you should do a similar thing like this, where it was the two SC1s having banter about 32. Like bantering up on and on about 32, because 32 got the literal shit beaten out of it.
Yeah.
And got blown up.
Well, it didn't get blown up. It got cut off. It was just hit by dumb bombs. Don't have explosive. Well, of course, there's dummy bombs, and then there's dumb bombs that have no guiding, and of course, but it was basically pounded by training munitions. Training munitions don't have explosive fillers.
Oh yeah, that would honestly make the SC1 story even sadder, because they're like, whatever happened to 32? I was like, I heard he's being used by the military for testing.
Oh, that would be sad.
Okay, now this.
In fact, I got an idea for that. Well, 35 was the last SC1 in the Morgan Hero Mountain scrap line, right? Well, when one, I got this up to remember. Damn it.
Well, while Ryan attempts to remember, here's one.
Okay, now here's something fun.
Okay, I found it. John A. Zerble, the owner of the railroad, walked up to me and gave me bad news. Is this news that we're all gonna run again? Gonna give us a chance? John A. Zerble shook his head, said, I just can't afford it. I can only afford to take care of one of you guys. And I have even more detrimental news about your brother or sister, whoever. And then he explains what happened to 32.
Oof.
That makes 35 heartbroken.
Oh. Yeah.
And all the other
And it makes 33 heartbroken. It makes 33 heartbroken the most, because she knew 32 the longest, because she was the first SC1 built, the oldest.
And all the other LSI locomotives in that same scrap line start mourning and feel sorry for 35, especially 29.
Wait, look.
Whatever.
Okay, now here's something. I got a funny idea. For when you do 6, 722, and 4501, you should just have something in TVRM where 4501, 630, partially dismantled 6910 and 610 are all pondering to themselves, what happened to 11? Oh, that old jerk? I think he went off to the U.S. military. Well, I think he was being used as a drag target.
11.
And then 11, and then they find out he got blown up on accident, and they just, considering that they all hate 11, they just start laughing their asses off.
No, that would be a bit too messed up.
Oh, you know what? I just thought of another idea for.
Then again, Henry got locked up in a tunnel for the rest of eternity. So that's, well, not necessarily for the rest of eternity, but still.
But it was said that he would be. But since you guys mentioned 4501, and do you guys want to hear the title of their book?
Go ahead.
The Southern Trio.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
You can probably guess what the story behind this is. Mostly camaraderie. But the thing is, what I want to implement into this is a third wheel. You know the situation where, you have a friend of 3, and then at times there's one of your friends as being a third wheel?
What?
Guess who's going to be the third wheel?
722?
Yeah.
Damn right.
22.
Damn right.
Well, at first, 630 was technically a third wheel because it was the only one never painted in Southern Crescent colors.
Yeah, so at first 722 and 4501 would, frolic together for a lot. Then, once it comes 6:30 would start off laughing, saying, "Ha, you're gonna be retired." But over time, he just starts feeling sorry for his. Feels like, oh, okay, I was being a little bit of a jerk, but
Yeah, just I could. Yeah, so yeah, that seems like a bit more of a logical story.
one thing I
You know,
want to.
I mean, and I know this engine. How about try and branch out to some more unknown steam excursion locomotives? Just for just so that they're publicized.
Ah, that's actually why I wanted to talk about the publicity of 774's book.
Oh.
You can probably guess how that will go.
Well, I do have a magazine about
this gives me a
because it could be like the 1954 trip was supposed to be my last one, but then one day the yard manager came into my shed and was like, "Come on, we're gonna fire you up for a few more trips. It's this year." I was shocked. I was confused at first, but I was gonna get the chance to run again, and if only for a year.
But still, it was better than nothing.
Yes, I was.
Oh boy.
And then it could just be.
Oh good lord.
What?
Lord. I have a horrible idea, but it will be a funny idea for April Fools.
Oh, and
dear.
A quick book on Edaville number 6. The quick book on Edaville number 6.
Really. But one here.
I know, stab really one.
Well, since you mentioned more unknown excursion stars, I also wanted to talk about my book about not really. I didn't want to talk about the books yet. I wanted to talk about what I was thinking 610 would be at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. Like once, I'm just imagining. I'd imagine he'd be like a
similar story. Wouldn't it be like a similar story to 4960? Because she also had lots of parts come and go on her.
No. It could actually be funny at first.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say.
As I emerged from the builder's shed, I heard said, as I emerged from the builder's shed, I could see generals all around me, military personnel. I don't know what their rank was at the time, but I think maybe a few generals were in attendance.
I just imagine that 610 would be like the kind of like a sergeant, like one of those I'm not messing around, get to work right now. Or I'm just imagining he would be a sergeant, you know?
Well, it could also be a story like Full Metal Jacket, where he has to listen to the drill sergeant.
Honestly, this is one of the things I want to do. Like for a few of the books, I want to make it to where, they're not for kids. Like, I don't know, for instance, one of the more genuinely serious stories. Like, let's say the story about 557. That would have a lot of cursing.
Why? Because 550.
Screw it. Andrew.
Yeah?
You gotta make a book about LS9 29.
I mean, it could be interesting, like...
Here's the most interesting part. During the 1916 segment, 29 would feel less and less used as the SC-1s would come along. The SC-1s would just walk all over 29. And 29 decided to prove himself or herself by pulling a long-ass iron ore train down a steep grade, even though it's a rainy day. But then she ends up crashing and possibly killing her own crew.
And she feels real traumatized by the whole And also, it would be fine because as I was brought into the shops opposite William,
And also like at the end, we're at that point. Like the SC1 stopped pushing her around because they realized what they're doing is like inhumane. They're like, we weren't trying to cause an accident, sir.
or you could also be like the fact that 29 holds a grudge against them for like
For being such a dick.
We're just being built bigger and stronger.
no as like I could also for essentially bullying it or whatever. It could also be like I never forgave those fat. I never forgave those
Fat Connies.
Well, 29 is technically fat as well, but she's still.
It could just be like I never. If it's gonna have a lot, if it's gonna have cursing, it could be like I never forgave those fat asses for what they did me to do, what they caused me to do.
No. Here's something. Here's a bit. I will never ever forgive those fat conveyor belt movers for body shaming.
Ooh!
And you know what? 29 sort of gets her revenge by stealing her booster trucks from 32. Because one of her eventual
That is
vehicles.
true.
Oh, it could also be like when the news of 32 being killed reaches the. He could also be like, yeah, in your face.
Crab rave. This is gonna be the crab rave.
Oh, and you know what? Since 29 was parked directly in front of 35, she gets to cheers celebrating 32's death, but 35 was actually pissed off.
Yeah, and it would be like, if I had a fire inside me right now, I would run you off the rails.
And all the SC4s that surround them, like, no offense, but you are a horrible person or locomotive. Celebrating someone's death? Shame on you.
No. Like no offense, 29. Like just the 18, just like when 18's like has to spend most of her life with 29. I still can't believe you celebrated the death of 32.
That is a great.
Everything to 32. Like 29 explains everything to 18, and 18's like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense now. But still, that's fucked up.
And 49, and imagine 4960s nearby saying, "You celebrate someone's death,"
and he's just,
You don't understand 4960. This gal tortured me my entire life.
Well, he'd probably be thinking, well, it's still not fun. Death isn't funny. And he's, thinking about 5632.
Oh, and then basically he's thinking about 5632.
Yeah, as I said.
That will hit hard. That will hit.
Oh, that'll be even more dramatic. Dan's here.
Hey Dan. We're just.
Hey Dan.
We're just discussing possible
book ideas
for Andrew's books.
And Dan, you are not gonna believe
here's. What? Okay, now here's something. Here is something. I got a good one. What about like when 765 and 759 are talking to each other? They're both questioning what happened to 587, and then 765 has a grimace on her face, and she like this one Kanawha that I met back down in Kentucky told me that she's been dismantled completely. She's been completely.
Ooh,
yeah,
that is an okay. I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh no! Oh, you know what could actually be a good thing? A story
and then 765 also has PTSD, and she's if they did that to 587, I mean, like they're like I've seen what they could do, like dismantling Mikados after seeing what they did to 624.
Oh!
I cannot
About
imagine like
this is a bit of a this is a bit of on the funny side, but how about a book about stories of how model trains and what they have to suffer as basically slaves to children?
Oh, like a Toy Story.
That's a book. That's an April Fool's book idea.
More deadly and more depressing.
Yeah, like, oh no, what is he putting behind me now?
No! He's riding me!
Hi there, big guy. My name is Thomas. Get away from me! Get away from me!
Oh man.
Let me see.
That would just.
Please get on
or there could just be, you know, a locomotive that's just been Frankensteined in a way. That would be fucking hilarious.
Speaking of my models, I don't know what to do with them.
And
Dan, also you got in time to hear my next proposal for a book. About 2839. And how she was like, I was moved to a place in Pennsylvania. They called themselves Atlantic Central, and they said, we'll give you a new lease on life. That I heard about what they did to my sister 2860 back in British Columbia. So I was excited for the prospect to run again. 3 years later, I was steaming happily, and my owners came back with an exciting news that I got to run that I was going to be leased by the Southern Railway of the United States to run in their steam program. But then again, it also kind of turns down there because
the train.
No, it could also be like the engine.
We can just.
Yeah, the
trains were long and hard, and the work was.
Not to mention the engines.
We were not. Even though we
Here's
were.
a suggestion.
What?
The story about 5361, and in the end, just explains how isolated the locomotive is.
I mean, that would be too much of it. That would be too like that. But as I was trying to say before, another thing I can.
You know, I can.
As I was saying, another thing the 2839 story could have is, you know, the Southern Railway engines. Dare I say, you know,
they were all bigger than her.
I don't want to say distaste, but sort of, you know, aversion to the fact that it's a Canadian. Like, what? The engines were looking at me all weird.
Get your fucking ass back here, you get your fucking ass back up in Northern Land, you fucking Canuck.
Who invited the beer can? Who invited the beer can over here?
Who invited this beer can? Who invited this beer can to run with us over Saluda Grade, eh? I bet he won't even last 10 seconds on that.
You clapping foul tweets, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, but there could also be, you know, something like
it's just like 28.
It could be 610 being like that. Saying,
I like to imagine that 2839 would be like
how
this.
much maple syrup can your tender hold, eh?
I don't know how much do you leak every day?
A lot.
But I like to imagine that.
Then they look at 2839 style, and then like all the other engines are just looking at 2839 stylish looks, and they're like, well, look what we have here. Have you been pampered your whole life? Because you look shiny enough to blind everyone in the entirety of Asheville.
Hey, be thankful Canada makes some Hawker Hurricanes.
I like to imagine that 2839 would be like a sympathetic badass.
Well, she did. You could also include a funny bit about how she derailed on a turntable. Because she actually did that at one point.
That's a good thing to implement. Like,
This gives me an idea. You should
what?
do a book on 4070, and like one of the prime things is when 4070 took a cannonball into one of the Detroit turntable pit.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, be honest.
Come on, boys. Let's let Ryan speak. Come on.
You're not going to make a book on 5629, are you?
No, I'm not. That one's.
No.
It's
That wouldn't even work. Nor do I think the 774 story would work because the engine is not around anymore.
well, the 774 story would work. The 774 story is going to work just because, well, it's really just a story of back then. Like, let's just say this news article guy, is interviewing the 774 before she's about to be sent off for scrap. Let's just say that.
So how does it feel to die?
And you know what? This gives me another idea to throw at your 4960 story.
Yeah.
Grand Trunk Western locomotives are dead to me. That's how I lost 5632. And now it's how I'm going to lose 18. The only
So
reason,
they're going to be like.
the only reason 4960 would hate Grand Trunk Western locomotives because of what 5629 more or less did to 5632 in 1 degree.
It's like, you steal my friend's number.
Making books about German steam locomotives because I feel like that's going to attract.
No, because you would have to include a part about the Holocaust, and
That'd be a little bit too much.
Plus, wearables are just going to go crazy about it.
We already have Alan Gratz to talk about the Holocaust in Project 1065 and in Refugee.
And Schindler's List.
Come on, we don't need. And also, well, I'm not sure if he wrote Schindler's List, but we also have Prisoner B something another. That's also a Holocaust story written by Alan Gratz.
But the problem with the story is that it's going to be the locomotives that are taking the people to the death camps. So
they just have intense views, and they're like, this is not how I was meant to work. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Why am I doing this? If I had a free opinion to speak out against Hitler, I would do that right now while I'm still staying on all drivers.
No, you need this gun, and I'll be the next Führer. Yeah.
But as I am saying, like the thing with 2839 story is that it could also teach a few things how it was able to overcome. I want to some of the, I don't want to say bigotry, but there's got to be one locomotive on the Southern Railway that actually does accept 2839, and it would be. I think it would actually be 40. I actually think it would be 4501 because
4501. Yeah, because 4501 is she suffered the worst fate out of all. Well, technically, in preservation stats, she suffered the worst fate out of all Southern steamers. She's the last of her kind, like the very last.
And then
that by Persians.
And since she was the first one built, she also has to. And since she was the first one built, she's going to be like, what happened to my 400 siblings? Where did they go?
They died. The thing is also I think the 610 is going to be the big, I guess, bully character in the story because
And the funny thing is,
and then at one point, the 2839 actually parks next to the 610, and she actually tries to see why he's so mean. And the 610 reveals that the Southern is thinking of ditching him because he's too long for the curves. And
you know what?
It could have.
Hear me out. While 2716 gets stored in his shed, if you're actually thinking about a book for 2716 anyway, have 1218 or 611 often meet up with him, either bully him or be friendly to him just because.
Yeah, I think it would just.
I like the idea of 1218 and 611 being kind to 2716. Since they're all
being mentored, like,
they're all superpower locomotives, it's best they stay together.
yes, yeah, it is, and yeah, but like the only reason I put that story arc about 2839 is that out of all the steam locomotives on the Southern Railway steam program, she was the most out of place out of all of them. And I think she got a few, scorning looks by Southern fans. And that could actually be a part of this. As I was passing along the line, there were some people that cheered me on and everything. But I also saw a few people glaring at me. Some people in trucks with shotguns glaring at me, like I was an alien, like I was alien to the region. Of course I was, but these looks
like I was out of worldly. I could not, like I was out of worldly. I feel like I'm in a different being, different air.
And you could also have her struggling on the train sometimes, like, oh. And one night she actually comes late back from a fan trip, and of course,
and like 620 and 722 are scolding her.
Yeah, like what the heck? Written by Beardolf Candler. That is the. Like, why the hell were you so late? Even we aren't that. And then 4501 is like, zip it, you two. You two, zip it.
Because 4501, her nickname's the shop queen, and is also like the only reason why he's late is because he's got 6 drivers and we've got 8.
So you look at
here's Project Bar.
I like the idea of 722 and 630 arguing like twins and little brothers. Like it's like, no, you started it.
You know what?
No, you started.
No, you started it.
Let's not do that because that falls a little too much in the Thomas Aikage category.
Okay, fair enough.
And
here's everybody joined again. You guys still going?
Yep.
We are.
Yeah.
Actually, you want to hear my story? So, Jim, I actually came up with a good story for 2839 about how she started life in Canada and then went on to the Southern Rail, was leased by the Southern Railway, and sort of got picked on by some of the other engines because of her.
Wants to hear about it. I had to tell you guys the reason why
he doesn't like Canadian engines. Jim doesn't like Canadian engines that much.
Guys, let Jim speak.
What I want to say is that I feel like I have to explain why I deafened myself and why I kept going out of college, because I'm also in the middle of trying to look for different groups of people who could maybe help me cope with a lot of mental problems I've been having lately.
Wait, what?
Let's say that right now, mentally speaking, I'm not very happy because, I'm kind of reduced to just sitting at home all the time because I don't have a job anymore because I quit due to circumstances not working out anymore for myself and my boss, and it's all my fault because I was effectively just pissed a job away that was specifically made for myself. And now I'm really in a big shitter because I don't know what to do exactly.
There's other jobs out there.
Yeah, but I feel like I have to mentally fix myself first.
Then see a therapist. Then just see a therapist.
Which is much easier. Which tragically is much easier said than done.
I'm sorry.
But hey, we're here for you, and
well, I think that's the problem. I have to.
It's not. I don't want to say this, and I don't want to say this, but And I know I'm going to sound really horrible for saying this, but since it's on for live right now, it's. I don't want to say
it's not.
I do not say it right now. Don't say it. Besides, if anything, I feel like I may need a little time away from here. Like I should be on here less often, or not as long every day. But that's just me.
I mean,
Anyway,
the bottom gear calls are a bit,
yeah,
repetitive.
Anyway, what are we talking about now?
We're just story plots for Andrew's books.
Yes.
Oh, because if anything, I thought that we were going to do stuff in Gmod today, and yeah, I guess I was low-key kind of waiting for you guys.
Not yet, Jim. We're not doing that yet. That's why this is called Burning Subjects Terminal.
Yeah, but as we're saying,
here's something. I got a good idea. I got a really, really, really good idea. So for like when 765 and like for the 759 and 765 book, you should do a part where 765 and 587 first come to the Southern Steam program, and they're like, "Why are we here?" And like 4501 is introducing them to the cast. 611, 1218, 611, 1218, 722, 630, TVRM 610, like the whole cast, and then it's just like they hear in the back shops. While being serviced there, like they hear in the back shops about the talks of some Canadian engine showing up, and said Canadian engine's 2839.
Well, then again, we're trying to be accurate to the time period.
No, I'm being accurate to the timeline. They were talking about the Canadian engine that showed up, that is now gone. That's somewhere else. They do not know where.
Yeah.
It was like gone, but they were talking about the time that 2839 was there, and they're like trying to figure out the number, and they're.
Hey, you remember that Canadian engine that came here? Oh, yeah. What was it called?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that Royal Hudson that looked like he base first into a wall. Yeah, him? Yeah. Sit you two. 2839 was a nice locomotive.
He looked like a beer can!
Shut up, 610. He was fine.
Oh, screw you! That's funny!
Black Lung, you have more bad luck than I do.
Oh, you really want to play like that, don't you?
That's because you were a one-off.
True.
Well, the thing is that 610 would still be in pieces at the time because 722 last ran in 1985.
But also keep in mind that 610 did fill in for 1218 one time.
It did, yes, it did. I think multiple. It actually operated multiple trips on NS. But as I'm saying before, like, I think the 2839 story could be like so developed because I was then transferred over to the Reading and to this railroad called the Blue Mountain and Reading. I was apparently supposed to haul the first trips of the day. However, after that event concluded, bad news came up.
Andrew, what are you doing?
What?
I saw you just looking sus. I saw you looking sus at the camera.
He's in love with himself.
Trying to practice my Grinch face. You know, like Jim Carrey, how he does it?
If anything, I would say that's a rape face.
But yes, as I'm saying,
wait. Okay, 420. You should do a story on 425, and like, there's
oh yeah, by Yellow standing by.
But it's like, right now it like when 425 parts with her only sister 426. Like they're both heartbroken. Because those were like. Because they were the only two that had relations, and they were the only two that ever existed. Kind of like similar to like what 190 and 290 would have done.
yes,
190 and 290, the good ending.
Yeah, too.
But what happened But what would happen is that later on in like the 80s and the 90s, when 425 gets restored, and she heard about the tragedy that happened to her sister, like she just mentally breaks down to the point where she doesn't even do the run anymore, and 2102 fills in for her.
Well,
Damn. Okay.
Well, it is. Well, you got to remember that that the Reading and Northern wasn't the first excursion gig that 425. It ran on the Louisiana Eastern Railroad, and then it ran on the Valley Forge Scenic, and then it ran on.
Storyline.
And then it was.
Here's a storyline I came up with for
Just hang me.
CM burning subjects. Just a little suggestion for you, Andrew. You don't have to use it.
Well, I've already got quite a lot here, and damn. So let's see here. What are all that I have? Okay. So 1278, 1361, 1187, 4960, the Reading Tier 1s, 33 and 34, 3985, 113, 3751, 774, 5557, 4501, 722, 630, 29, 2839, and 610.
Don't forget the Berkshires, because you were going to do those as well.
Yeah, I said 57. Yeah, I mentioned 57, 55. I mean 57, 759, and 765.
All right.
Need
So.
to get myself together.
Okay. Oh, this is a new article that just came out. Right?
Yeah, the stream's still going on.
The stream.
German Penzinger is given a hefty fine for a World War II tank in his house.
Oh,
you want to know what's
the
tank?
fault?
All right.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's the
was it the Huntington door?
Does someone want to read my message and bring some of this out loud, or should I read it myself?
I mean,
Let me see.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh, wait. Actually, how about we all read it together? Here. How about we all read it together? Who's going to be who?
Okay, let's assign. I know this is going to sound like. Now, viewers, I know this is going to sound like, but we're just trying to help Andrew write his stories, okay?
Yeah.
So who's going to be 18? I guess Ryan, you would be. And I'm going to be 29.
So, should I?
I can't believe you were rude back there.
Get over it. That was years ago.
What are you guys talking about?
This is none of your goddamn business.
Years ago, one of her big cousins was blown to bits, and 29 was overjoyed, throwing trash talk to him until it occurred to her that one of his brothers was directly in front of her, and...
Shut up, 18.
You celebrated someone's death? Why?
Those SC-1s came along and took over my assignments. I was outdated my crews, so I wanted to prove them wrong. It was a very rainy day, and my ore trains were very late. I heard talks of replacing me with 32 for that train, and immediately after 32 called me a snail, I interrupted them by telling, no, I am not as old as I may look. I can do it. I saw the yardmaster roll his eyes on me, but I didn't care. I was this close to being sold to another company or even getting cut up. The rain was getting heavier and heavier as I was approaching in Nigani. As I was going fast to make up for lost time, my engineer yelled at me to slow down, but I told him to scram. I was too desperate to slow down, and then all of a sudden it happened. I jumped the tracks and my crew was screaming, and I came turning on my side. Everything was black. Looks at 4960. 32 made me miserable.
Damn. That was.
Doesn't that make some 2040 sound more dramatic? Or what?
Be right back. I'm going to install an update.
All right.
I am so glad I decided to write these books.
It does.
Yes, it's very like I said, it's very I'm trying to to add a bit more emotion to this story because I've been called because Andrew, you have called me a rather bland, sometimes in the past, but I'm trying to get a little better with that.
And these books, I feel like, are going to be a very interesting twist on railroad preservation altogether.
Yeah, the only thing is that, and I'm not going to name names, but, some rail circles will call it cringe or whatever, but then again, like, most of these books, at least, are intended for children.
Well, let's see. Like 8 out of 10 books are intended for children.
Yeah, there are some that are a bit more. And and this is not like, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends goes to Equestria or something.
Yeah,
it's not
even the actual Railway Series books were actually meant to have an adult audience with them as well.
Yeah.
Yes, because I have actually read some of the books, and they can get pretty. Like the original book that inspired, I think it was that one episode where Gordon meets the Flying Scotsman. It was a lot more depressing because
I have the book.
Because the story was like, because Sir Topham Hatt tells Gordon saying, all of your brothers except for one have been cut up.
I mean, even in Bluebells of England, there's even that one picture of the engines on a siding awaiting their fate.
Yes, that's the exact thing. Like,
and here
we're trying to keep a realistic tone to these stories, and
here's what I'm. I hate to say it, but when I typed down the 1960s 16 segment for 29, I was somewhat thinking of Christie, as that plot of that movie.
Christie, we're like the car with the kill people.
Oh yes, that movie.
And well, guys, I actually wanted to talk about the art style, which
the art style, I think it should honestly be, I think, you should do it. I don't want to say exactly like Thomas or something.
No, I'm not going to do it like Thomas at all, actually. I have a plan to make it 90% realistic. Well, besides the fact that these locomotives are semi-sentient. Like, for the eye, well, note, eye. One of their eyes would be their headlight, on the front. And then the other eye would be the rear headlight on the tender.
No, their eyes. A better idea would have their eyes be the marker lights.
No, here's something.
Marker lights. Try that.
Yes. Marker lights are a missed opportunity. Marker lights are a missed opportunity.
Okay, well.
And have the headlight be the nose.
And then what about? And then I think I know what I want. I know what I want the mouth to be. You know that curved handrail that you see on most steam locomotives on the smoke box?
Yeah.
That would be the mouth.
Yeah.
That would be the mouth.
But for those that don't have handrails, they'll just simply be put on the smoke box, like say 1187.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, we got a pretty good idea of what these books are here to do. But the only thing that I'm missing is a title for this series of books.
I don't want to, and I think we should leave out Steve. I think it should be Steve. I don't want to say Steve Excursion Stars because that's so cliched, but sort of
I wanted to have the theme based on the era of steam preservation.
Yeah, the air.
But that's a little bit.
Mouth present. I know the preservation stories.
I guess that'll work for now.
Yeah, that's a great beta title for, as in like a beta video game.
Yeah.
Oh, also, Raz, what are you typing in burning subjects? That's so long.
Yeah,
All right.
I was about to ask the same thing.
Well, let's see here.
Are you
So-
coming with an extension of my message, or are you coming with something for 33 and 34?
40 and 60.
Perhaps.
I mean,
Perhaps.
oh,
I mean, you guys have already developed a character of 4501 already on your own. You know, not self-centered, but a really caring locomotive, a soul survivor who understands the struggles of preservation.
Who's had
Yes.
multiple not to mention has also had battle scars of when she worked on the KNT and during the Southern Steam program. Because remember, do I also have to mention when her dry pipe collapsed and she took off like a racehorse that has been whipped too hard?
Raz, bad news. Message is somewhat inaccurate. It was 4963 that went to the scrapyard, not 4960.
Imagine as well. You're toured off to the scrapyard along with a larger locomotive, and you have to witness that be derailed and cut up.
Well, here's what about a book about 1218?
Oh yeah, that could be it was just gonna be a normal overhaul. But it would be.
Someone tells him that all your brothers are gone. Something like that.
Nah, it would be depressing.
I got bad.
It was just gonna be. At the end of '91, I was brought into the shops in Birmingham for what they were. You'll be as good as. Give it 5 years and we'll make you good as new, they said. And I believed them. However, 3 years into my overhaul, the news broke. The news broke. Norfolk Southern, due to rising insurance costs and an accident, and one of the idiot switchers damaging several passenger cars in an accident, and one of the idiot switchers that damaged passenger cars in a derailment. They were going to be canceling the Steam program, and by December of that year. Now 611 goes into the shop and tells them that. And at first I was mortified, and I was telling her, please, don't let this be true. And 611 was like, I'm sorry. 611 immediately went on display at the VMT. I was stuck in that lonely shop with no one. Eventually they started putting me back together. They were bit by bit. And 10 years after I entered the shop, I was at the museum. I guess it's a nice retirement at the end of the day. And hey, 611 and got to be steamed up again, so that's a bonus. So I even donated one of my rod bearings to. I even donated one of my rods to her at one point. Yeah, true story. Actually, there are some parts of 1218 on the 611.
Huh. Well, I think I have the title for 1218's story.
What?
Thy God has fallen. 1218, thy God has fallen.
Yeah.
A very big change when it comes to the names for these stories, because most of them have been barely, straightforward, like Fast and Fearless, Big, Bad, and Bearable. This one is just thy God has fallen.
Because it's a unique machine.
A very unique and very loved machine that, look, even as us writing these stories, we miss her. We really do miss 1218, don't we?
I mean, to be honest, I know I'm gonna sound horrible here, but I was never really attracted to 1218, mainly because I didn't really like her hooter whistle at the time.
I think her hooter whistle's epic.
Yeah, I've learned to appreciate it over time. It's just, I mean, the difference is that, you know,
Same.
the 611. I was more interested in streamlined Steam at the time, and the 611 just seemed like, you know, the more interesting locomotive to me. As much as that may, you know, turn off some people, that was my mindset at the time. That was.
But honestly, I'm hoping to make these books as emotional and heartfelt as possible, especially for this.
Yeah, just yes.
And you know what? Sorry to bring up one more idea for ranking a railway plot, but 29, 16, 29 should be depressed to see 18 and 20 leave. And they should be not so happy when 39 arrives at the scene.
Bias. No.
So wait, is
Sure.
how will 49, 60, and 29 react? How will they be absolutely pissed when 29, 26 comes? Because they're like, oh, god damn it, did another one of our friends just got replaced?
Oh, that would honestly, that would be a little bit that would be an interesting plot. Like, actually,
And then like 29, 26, and then like 29, 26 is like, why am I getting all the hate? The 37, 51 he's perfectly fine. He's just getting a rebuild. In fact, I noticed we have the same operations manager. It was just that this time they sent me down here instead of him.
Yeah, and I think yes, and you could also talk about 29, 26 hardships while being rebuilt, like having her tender spray painted with graffiti.
that, and not to mention 22 years under restoration.
Blast. It could be like a diary of her restoration. Blast. Vandals have struck again. This time they spray painted my tender with weird orange letters. I don't know what they said, but it's.
You should also include the fact where like 29, 26 also had to witness the pyrotechnics going on outside of her shed.
Wait a minute. Andrew, do you see how long your stream is now?
2 hours. Wow.
It's about a couple hours.
This will be a new record.
All this to talk about a couple of story plots for Andrew's future books. Wow.
I think we got a little carried away.
And honestly, that's the good thing. The more in depth you get into these stories, the more attached you become with the idea.
Yes, I'm just trying. Yeah, but we also got to make sure to make these stories not too outlandish or something.
I mean, I want to make them realistic, but at the same time, I want to bring out the personality of these locomotives. Like, you know, their time in excursion service. And I want them to be remembered for what they actually should be remembered for. Their great excursion life and their great performance and their interesting history.
Oh, and I know Jim is going to absolutely, is probably going to shoot me for this, but what about one about 1522? Because, you know, like, about how, like, I saw the crew members the guy seemed friendly enough, but then one of my engineers was like, no, we don't, go away, we don't want you here. I was angry, and I asked them why would they do such a thing, and they kept insisting the fact that they did not trust any of the younger people, and that I would be abused by them. I was actually good Lord, I suppose. I'm angry at the. Even though I was angry at them for that, I tried my best. Unfortunately, one day they came into my shed and broke the news to me. Several of the members at the time were had either left or passed away, and they were like, I'm sorry, but you're gonna. The good news is that you're gonna pull several excursions. You're gonna have a weekend. You're gonna have 2 days of running excursions, and the bad news is that these are going to be your last ones ever because we can't pay insurance.
So similar to the idea I had for 11A7.
Yes, but so there it was back in the transportation museum. But thankfully this time I was under a roof. Can't say the same for the. For some reason, I've seen people online. I was sad at the time, but at the same time, I was relieved as I started to feel a little bit of pain in my flu sheet. Turns out there was a crack in there. So I guess it was a good thing that I was pulled out of service after that. Of course, I've heard about the debates online of whether I should return to service or not. And sometimes they can get extremely emotional. But in all honesty, I'm all right just sitting under my shed. I've had a very fulfilling career after this.
Someone just said do a story about 844.
That'll actually. We're gonna have 844 in the story of 3985, just a little bit though.
But yeah,
844. If 844 was freaking in the story, her book would be bigger than a dictionary.
Yeah.
Yes.
And honestly, I really
operate all of her life.
One thing that I really want to implement into the story of 3985 is the boiler failure 844 had, and the time 3985 had to assist her.
Yeah, it could also be like, yeah. On the plus side, I got to meet every big steam I got to meet some of the biggest other big steam locomotives on the West Coast.
And I stood proud and tall as I was the biggest.
Yeah, that was.
You know what? I have another idea, Andrew. Do a story on all 3 excursion stars of the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, including 14.
And number
32 and 14.
Well, 2719 would actually be very interesting because it would actually be because there's actually a lot more lore to her than, dare I say, some of the. She was the very last steam engine to run a trip on the Soo line, and she operated for the main.
Why is it that those 2 jerks get to operate, but I don't? Crew member walks out to me saying, "You're just not strong enough. You're not big enough. Let's face it. He's stronger than you now. Get over it."
Well, 2719 is not necessarily stronger than 14, but it is more smooth riding and a little faster. And
when 2719 gets pulled from service, 14's like, ha! Looks like you get to sit back. And
I don't want to make 14 a bitter character because 14 did have problems. Like there's a reason she was only used for 6 years. Remember?
I want to imagine that 28.
I think I figured out the reason why she was used for 6 years only.
I want to imagine that 28 is the bitter. I want to imagine that 28.
No, keep in mind, 2719 did not arrive on the LSRM until 2007. That is.
Yes.
I want to imagine that 28 is the bitter one out of the 3. Like, he's the one who's like, come on, fire me up now! 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 Like, the impatient asshole who always gets what he wants.
Yeah. And that's because he's very temperamental.
Exactly. And that's why he was fired up illegally. In the story, anyway.
But anyway, I sent something in memes that you guys may find hilarious.
Maybe. Let's take a look. And I think we should end the stream in about 15 minutes because my little brother is sick and he's been dealing with us for the last 2 hours.
You know what? And the perfect book title for that 3 LSRM locomotives. Duluth Trio.
The
Yeah. Or yeah, I could actually, I was thinking of like 28 could have been the engine that's like she broke down often, and 2719 doesn't like much. I was an express passenger engine, and I have a lot. Why is that guy so? I was an express passenger engine back in my day, and I didn't. That wasn't as big of an asshole as this guy was, or as big of a jerk as this guy was.
So a lot of workplace rivalry.
Yes, there was. Well, especially with number 28, because 28's like, ha, yes, custody issue, and 14 is like, shut up, you sorry excuse for an ore hauler. This engine is dealing with a very serious situation, which could potentially get her good. Then I'll get the chance to operate for once.
That sounds like 28.
So it's basically like okay, I got one. What if we did something similar, but it's like the Steamtown, all the engines at Steamtown or all the engines at Age of Steam having banter with each other, because at the moment 6325 is the queen of Age of Steam, and most of the people there just come to see 6325.
Yeah, and they're like, and the other engines, and then 763 is like, hey, I'm bigger than you, remember that.
And more powerful.
Oh, shut up, I operated longer than you, and plus I got to pull the president.
And then 1187's over here in the corner is like, you guys got to run?
And then there's 643. And then there's 643, like, oh my goodness. I can't hear any more of this. I cannot hear any
or
more of this.
Or 1278's over in the corner is like, at least you didn't have a crown sheet failure.
Yeah. Oh, not to mention 33
is in the back is like 33 is in the back is like, man, we never did this shit to 29, but I mean, thank God your axle fucking broke.
Ooh!
Because you're temperamental.
Because you're a temperamental bitch.
That, you see, this is one of those stories I'd like.
Your axle broke because it seems that temper, it looks like you can melt yourself to pieces.
Yeah. Yes, but I was thinking of the Steamtown banter being like 3254 is in a lot of pain due to her bent frame, and the other engines kind of pick on it for it. Like, shut up! You don't know my situation that I'm in.
And then except the only one is 2719 because 2317. What the hell was it? 2317. Because 2317, she has the most horrors at Steamtown. She killed 11 people. In the preservation era alone.
Wait, what?
Like
Children.
Wasn't this like back when she was?
Were children.
What wasn't this back in Vermont or something?
Both in Vermont and in Scranton. Both. She killed both for an entire excursion. She killed 11 people.
I had heard that she is the. Well, to be honest, I have heard that she is called the Widowmaker, but I haven't seen it.
That was it.
I haven't heard that
and not
many.
To mention 2719 has got the not 2719. 2317 has got the most shit beaten out of her. Remember, she ran a three-wheel roundhouse at Steamtown one time.
Wait,
She's killed several of those people, right?
No, like I'm not sure like people were killed in this incident, but she ran through the roundhouse. Like she overshot her stall and ran through the roundhouse.
Was this at Scranton or Vermont? Because I know
it was in Scranton. It's in Scranton, and the damage is still there because if you look at the bottom of the 2317 stall, you can see where the brick got knocked out by her pilot.
Yeah, 2317 could just, make fun of 3254 because of, look at you, your stupid bent frame, and 3254 is like
3254 strikes back and is like, well, at least I'm not in as bad condition as you are, you piss poor Canadian.
Or you piss. Well, at least I have. Well, at least I don't have a murder. Well, at least I don't have a murder rap sheet. At least I don't have a rap sheet for murder. That's.
Jeez.
Quickly going back to Yellowstone, Andrew, seeing the USA locomotives.
Yeah.
What do you think should be a secondary title for this book idea?
This book, the Duluth Trio.
Yeah, 14 and I think 14 and 2719 do get along with each other, but 28 is just, I ran this route when I ran this route back in the day. You are just implants. I ran this because it actually does because LSRM's track actually runs on the what's it again? The former tracks of the Duluth and Northeastern.
I mean, it makes sense because 28 is also the smallest, but it's like he's the smallest, and so he has the biggest self-confidence issue, and so he has to take it out on everyone else.
Yes. And, of course, he has, troubles. And then 14 is... And then the day he gets, restored to working order, and, guess who's operating now? And the other ensigns are just scorning at him.
14's like, screw you, piss poor Connie, or consolidation.
I like piss poor Connie. It sounds...
I wouldn't, go that far, but they just, give him a look saying, "Great! Now you get to humiliate your crews as much."
Great! Now you can go.
Yeah, and they just look at him with a giant ore train for a photo charter, and they're like, ugh.
Self-confident bitch.
Can you just imagine 332 just coming back into the shed and it's just like, hey, guess what? I just got to meet the big boy. Suck on that.
Yes. And
that is there's going to be a lot of story behind this guy's self-confidence. Oh my god, there's so much potential.
Yeah, and I think even the big boy is going to be like, buddy, you're a little or he would be angry because he was snubbed by the big boy and saying he said he didn't like my attitude, and they would be like, well, of course, yes, because
14 would be like, gee, I wonder why he didn't like your attitude.
Gee, why? Honestly, I think I'm gonna change the second book from 1361 to that, because I have the Duluth Trio sounds like a really enticing story. And it's a really good way to set up the idea that, hey,
dude, imagine 261 comes back and he's like, hey, where's 2719? I miss him. And then he just 332 was like, oh, shiny drivers you got there, northern boy.
Of course you know the story about three of those.
Good use.
Of course you know the story about all three of those locomotives, right, Andrew?
Not entirely. I mean, I slightly know the story of 2719, and I barely know the story of 28, and I don't at all know what 14 is. All I know is the Mikado, but...
Here, let me show you the Wikipedia page again.
Also, you should also make a freaking thing on on Big Continent where it's 1385 Saga.
Oh, 1385 up, and she has more and more problems as the years go by, and
yeah, he's like in 1990, he's like it's been a great while since I got a rebuild. I can't even remember the last time CNW gave me a rebuild since I've been put up for sale. I mean, hell, I barely even remember my CNW days since it's been so long since I had a rebuild. Friends come and go. There's a whole bunch of however, there was new friends. They come and they go. I even got to chat with this one Mikado, this one Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Mikado that the crew managers hate for some reason. I couldn't tell why they hated him. He was such a nice guy.
Honestly,
and let's not forget,
this is wonderful, guys. I actually didn't know that you guys would be this enthusiastic about telling these stories from this point of view.
I mean, yeah, as long as they're written well and they're actually written within the bounds of realism, they can work. Yeah, it's like
my DMs, Andrew.
Hold on, let's see here.
Honestly,
thank you.
This stream has been going on for
2 hours and 25 minutes. So I guess it's time to end. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully you guys enjoy the books that I'm gonna write.
Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
Let me don't go before you go. I gotta do it. Never gonna give you up. Never
gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you.
Gonna make you cry. Okay, where did they make a version of Bleach for ears?
I mean, there's an ear cleaning kit.
The copyright strike.
That's live stream number 6 I rickrolled.
But anyway, we will.
Monetization. You could say night to monetization.
All right, though. We will see you guys next week for another episode of Burning Subjects Terminal. So, that is. Yep. See you guys later.
Bye.
And don't forget, never gonna give you up.